listeners. Welcome to today's session. Today we are going to talk about ethnic relation, conflict, and change. This is part of Block 3, Unit 2, and this is the second video for Unit 2. You must have watched Unit 1 video wherein we talked about ethnic relation in more detail. We discussed the concept of ethnicity. Now we would proceed with further explanations and discussions. So, first of all, we'll talk about forced migration of tribes for labor. The colonial government allowed plantation owners to forcibly move tribal communities from their native lands to different parts of the country where cheap labor was needed. The British left 60 years ago, but the tribal communities have remained, and the local population continues to be indifferent, if not hostile, to these communities. Politically, these communities are marginalized and remained outsiders. The Tea tribes of Assam is an example of tribal communities marginalized after being forced to migrate from central India. Now, let us know about development projects and special economic zones. So, it is estimated that millions of people have been displaced due to development projects after independence. The Planning Commission is one of its reports put the number of displaced people at 21.3 million, among which 8.54 million, which is about 40%, were tribals. Only 2.1 million have been reported to be rehabilitated, and the remaining 6.4 million are still to be rehabilitated. The developmental projects might have helped the nation to progress, but it has been at the cost of the tribes. The tribal populations were asked to move from the native lands for greater common good, but they never benefited themselves. Tribes are increasingly being negatively affected by the governments to initiate special economic zones, SEZ you must have heard about, which it claims will boost the economic growth of the country. Here again, farmer lands and tribal lands are being taken away using the land acquisition laws. You must have also witnessed this happening in your area. Amita Baviskar is one of the scholars, and she asserts that the conflict between the state and the tribes are not only a right to livelihood, but is also a clash of cultures. A culture which sees land and environment as assets to be exploited for the development, and the tribal culture that has learned to live with nature harmoniously. The rise of modern nation states of India, Pakistan, and Bangladesh. India, Pakistan, and Bangladesh are three nation states born of British India. The division of colonial India into two countries was based on the criterion of religion. The Muslim majority regions became Pakistan. This we are aware about. In 1971, Pakistan itself was divided and a new nation emerged, which was Bangladesh. The boundaries of these nations have divided many ethnic communities and placed them under different nation states. Members of these communities feel strongly that all their members should live together under one nation state. For example, the Nagas are found in India and Burma. One of the demands of Naga separatists is that all Nagas unite under one state. Similar demands have been made by other separatist groups also. Now let us discuss states reorganization and federalism in India. A federal system of governance is a way of managing India, a vast country with its diversities. It is also a strategy to manage regional aspirations, some which in the early days after independence had separatist tendencies. The main principle for awarding statehood is the linguistic basis, like common language. The government of India reorganized Assam and created Nagaland, Meghalaya, Mizoram, and fulfilled its statehood and Manipur. So this was done in year, like Nagaland was created in the year 1963, Meghalaya was done in 1972, Mizoram first it was Union Territory in 1972, and full-fledged statehood it received in 1987, and Manipur became a state in 1972. But often many areas in these regions are inhabited by more than one group, which causes problems. The tribal areas are even more pluralistic, with a number of communities cohabiting in the same area. It is impossible to divide regions according to one community and grant statehood. For example, in Manipur, the hills are dominated by the Nagas and the plains by Meiteis. The Nagas want to integrate their areas to the state of Nagaland, but the division of the Manipur will anger the people of the plains and some smaller non-Naga communities of the hills. Similarly, the Santals are divided between the states of Orissa, Madhya Pradesh, Bengal and Chhattisgarh. In such situation, the state official language and medium of instruction in schools are in non-tribal language, leading to alienation of tribes. The complex situation cannot be solved easy, as granting of statehood to the dominant often creates more problems than it addresses. The example of division of the state of Assam into smaller states did not solve all problems of that region. Administrative arrangements, inefficiency and insensitivity. When we discuss about tribal communities during the British rule, what we come to know is that they were given considerable freedom to manage their own affairs. The autonomy given to these areas allowed the British to claim these areas as being under their control without using their administrative and military resources. Separatists in Northeast often justify their demand for a separate nation state by claiming that the accession of the tribal areas was not legal and properly done. The consent of the people was not taken when it was determined whether these areas should join the Indian Union. Administrative inefficiency and insensitivity have contributed to the alienation of the tribal people. The use of the armed forces to quell militancy has resulted in the complaints of human rights violations. And this has been reported widely in different, news media, even in magazines, newspapers. The Special Forces Act, which gives the security forces unlimited powers to search houses and arrest suspects, is particularly unpopular in the Northeast. People do not like it. Lack of economic development. The tribal areas have been exploited as they are rich in natural resources. However, the tribal people and the regions remain backward. According to the Planning Commission, over 80% of the total workers, both rural and urban, are engaged in primary sector, of whom 45% are cultivators and 37% are agricultural laborers. The corresponding figures of all workers are 31.65% cultivators and 45% agricultural laborers. And this indicates that scheduled tribes are essentially dependent on agriculture. They have not largely benefited from the growth of the service sector, especially the banking and IT sectors, which the plains have benefited from. Similarly, the incidence of poverty in scheduled tribes is 45.3% in rural areas and 24.1% in urban areas, compared to the figures of 25.4% and 13.7% for total population. That is the report given by Tribal Committee in 2014. The Human Development Index for scheduled tribes is estimated as 0.0270, which is lower than HDI of scheduled caste and general population. Similarly, the Human Poverty Index is estimated at 47.79, which are higher than the scheduled caste and general population. And this is a report by UNDP 2007. Now, talking about plurality of militant groups, many militant groups claiming to represent these two communities were fighting among themselves for a long time. The major overt objective of these groups is to maintain territory exclusively for their community by driving out the outsiders. Covertly, some of these groups are engaged in illegal activities like extortion, kidnapping, smuggling, and gun running. These activities are major sources of revenue of these groups. They fund the political activities of the group, which helps it gain legitimacy. Given that there is a lot of money to be obtained from these activities, it is not uncommon to find conflicts between groups that represent the same community. The plurality of the groups is itself a cause of the major troubles in the locality. Government negotiation with one group are often seen as betrayal by the other groups, and often the arrangements are not accepted. Often clashes between groups takes place, which costs lives. Various factions of NSCN fought over NSCN-IM peace talks with the government. This was published in the Frontline. However, the plurality of militant groups has not prevented many of them from cooperating with each other on common issues. Tripura, All Tripura Tiger Force, ATTF, is an example of the same. Now let us talk about tribal and forest rights. Another major issue that creates problems is the issue of tribal access to forests. Tribal dependence on forests and food is still very high. Forests are largely under the control of the Forest Department, which restricts access to the forest under the guise of protecting the forests. According to Forest Survey of India, which was conducted in 2011, almost 60% of the forests over of the country is found in tribal areas, namely in the 188 tribal districts of the country. About 4.3 million people, mostly tribes, continue to inhabit in the forest areas designated as national parks and protected areas. Covert support from external agencies and government. Many people receive funds and training from neighboring countries and their secret services. It is alleged that China used to aid the NSCN and the Pakistani secret services. The ISI helps militant groups, and this was published in Frontline in the year 1994. Bangladesh has been either indifferent or unable to control the use of its land as safe sanctuaries for various militant groups. The support of these countries has ensured the sustainability of the militant groups, especially when Indian security forces have acted against them. Let us talk now about the role of the ruling parties in center and the national level politics, how it has contributed its role in tribal politics. The national parties in the center have not been free from blame. Often the governments in the center have used their power to further their party interests at the cost of creating instability in the states. Elected governments are destabilized and puppet leaders installed. It is not uncommon to find that the leaders of tribal dominated parties switching sides after a change of power in the center. These unpopular changes have made the central government lose legitimacy in tribal dominated states. Short-sighted decisions and policies of governments both at the state and central level have made short-sighted policy decisions that have hurt the people of these states, especially the tribes. Since tribal voices are not adequately represented in the decision-making bodies or media appropriately, many of these decisions have affected them adversely. For instance, in Orissa, the decision to grant permission to set up industries in tribal dominated areas without proper consultation has been the major cause of tribal unrest. Tribal population accounts for 22.21% of total population. 73% of the tribes are estimated to be below poverty line. Yet tribal people have resisted moves by the government and private entrepreneurs to set up industries, as the experience shows that they do not benefit at all while losing their lands. One of the recent incidents happened in Jaipur district, where the government is setting up an industrial complex. In Kerala, large-scale migrations have taken place from mainly central Kerala to the districts of Wayanad and Idukki. Many of the migrants have settled down illegally on forest lands. The number of such migrants has now become large and has become a powerful pressure group. Their major demand is that they be given land rights. All major political parties support these demands. This has led to clashes between the tribes and the settlers, who are backed by the police. In the year 2003, the government decided to grant land rights to the settlers in Wayanad. It led to clashes between the tribes and the settlers, and subsequently between the tribes and the police, which left many dead. In 1975, the Kerala legislature had unanimously enacted the Kerala Scheduled Tribe Restriction of Transfer of Lands and Restoration of Alienated Lands Act. The legislation's primary purpose is to restore alienated land to the tribes. However, it was not notified until 1982, and the tribes could not benefit from the legislation. In 1982, the various rules under the Act was formulated and notified. However, the law was not implemented on the ground. A public litigation was filed in the Kerala High Court in the year 1988. Again, only 3 of the 8,088 cases were finally restored, and only 1,201 case orders were passed. The High Court in 1993 ordered the government to dispose all pending cases within 6 months. Again, the government was not willing to act. The tribal land issue remains unresolved even today. In Manipur, the central government has a ceasefire agreement with the NSCN-IM. The NSCN-IM demanded that the ceasefire be extended to Naga inhabiting areas in Manipur also. The centre ordered the cease agreement to be applicable in Manipur. This move by the central government enraged the Manipur Meiteis, who saw it as a move to appease the Nagas at their cost. Massive protests and violence followed. The assembly hall was burned down and houses of ministers were attacked. The violence forced the central government to rethink on their decision. This time, the Nagas were angry that the central government had reneged on their decision. They enforced a blockade on the valley and did not allow the movement of any goods. Though the blockade was eventually lifted, it had an adverse effect on the already strained relationship between the Meiteis and the Nagas. In Chhattisgarh, Naxal groups inspired by the Maoist thoughts are fighting the government and the landed class. The main element in their strategy is the use of violent means to attain their objectives. They are particularly active in the states of Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh, Orissa, Maharashtra, and Andhra Pradesh. Increasingly, the Naxal groups are recruiting from tribal communities who've suffered land alienation and lack of development in their area. The state governments in those states have had limited success in combating the Naxal problem. In Chhattisgarh, an organization called Salva Judum has been formed by a member of Legislative Assembly with the support of the state government. It consists of volunteers, often paid as special police officers, mainly from tribal communities who are trained in guerrilla warfare and then used against the Maoists. The strategy of using armed civilians against Maoists has been criticized as delegating state responsibility to private organization. More importantly, from the tribal community point of view, the Salwa Judum has divided communities and even families. Often members of the same communities are pitted against each other. The resultant violence has left many dead and many more displaced. The independent observers have stated that the violence has had a negative impact on the communities. Cultural hegemony of the so-called mainstream is not just the material deprivation that has caused conflicts between the tribal and the non-tribes. Often the mainstream culture identifies the national culture with their own cultural values and lifestyles. Other cultures are sidelined or even discriminated. In the national level, the twice born Hindus inhabiting the Indo-Gangetic plain, the mainstream look upon the emergence of peripheral cultural nationalism with disapproval and disdain, and this was said by Uman. At the state level too, there were deliberate attempts to sideline the culture of the minority linguistic groups. It often finds expression in the language policy and the education policy of the state. Education and language policy are emotional issues and people are easily provoked. The division of Assam into the smaller states was in response to the demands that the culture of the non-Assamese tribal communities was under threat. Cultural insensitivity is also seen when tribes are expected to move away from their traditional lands for often inadequate compensation and, even more importantly, without understanding the role of the nature and the surrounding in their culture. Amita Bhaviskar points out that for the tribal community, the land was central to their culture, and it was difficult to imagine their lives without the landscape. Tribal religion and conversion was often animist, like tribal religion was often animist and nature worship. But many have converted to Christianity and many have been Hinduized. Some tribes have been converted to Islam. These new identities have often changed the tribal perception of themselves and others. Conversion to Christianity has enabled greater access to education and greater awareness about their situation. For example, the many founders of Jharkhand movement were Christians. Their education and exposure gave them the ability to articulate the demands of their communities effectively. However, in other times, the identities exacerbated the conflict between the communities. In Orissa and in Gujarat, in Orissa, I say in the year 2008, and in Gujarat in the year 2002, religious identity played an important role in causing riots and conflicts. Separatist and secessionist movements. The cultural alienation and lack of development in tribal areas has produced numerous separatist and secessionist movements. Demands for a separate statehood and sometimes a separate nation have been made by various tribal groups. Nagaland, Meghalaya, Mizoram, Tripura, Arunachal Pradesh in the northeast, Jharkhand and Chhattisgarh are states which have been formed to address the demands of tribal movements. The longest separatist movements is the Naga movement. In 1926, the Naga Club submitted a memorandum to British demanding sovereignty. Nagaland National Council, NNC, under the leadership of Angami Zapu Fizo, started an insurgency and demanded a sovereign Naga state. The council held a referendum in which it claimed that 99% of the Naga people supported independence for Nagaland. Fizo created an underground government called the Naga Federal Government, NFG, and a Naga Federal Army, NFA. After Fizo, The NSCN has split on tribal line into many factions: NSCN Isaac Movia and NSCN Kaplan. Negotiations with the Indian government are held periodically to resolve the problems. Up till now, we have discussed some of the causes for tribal conflicts in India. Hope you've been able to understand the various reasons which we discussed. In the previous video also you can see some of the reasons being discussed, which was also followed in this video. Tribal conflicts and overview. Now we will discuss tribal conflicts and an overview about it. Tribes have engaged in major conflicts that have taken place between the tribes and the non-tribes and between tribal communities themselves. Some of the ethnic conflicts that have taken place in the northeast are Bodo, non-Bodo conflict in Assam, then anti-outsider movement in most states in northeast and particularly in Meghalaya and Assam. Naga-Kuki clashes, then Kuki-Paite clashes and Tripura-Bengali clashes. So these are some of the conflicts. Let us now discuss Naga-Kuki clashes in detail. The two tribes, Nagas and Kuki. The Kuki groups are demanding that the Kuki-dominated areas of Churachandpur, Senapati, Chandel and Tamenglong to be recognized as Kuki land. This demand has been opposed by the major Naga militant group, the National Socialist Council of Nagaland, NSCN-IM. The Kuki's militant groups include the Kuki National Army, that is KNA. The conflict escalated in 1992 when Kuki militants asked the Nagas to leave Moreh, a town near the Indo-Myanmar boundary. Moreh is a place known center for smuggling and distribution of heroin, which comes in from Myanmar. Kuki militant groups control the trade and have made major profits. The NSCN demanded taxes, which the Kuki group has refused. They then demanded that Kuki leave these areas. The clashes between the Naga Kuki left numerous dead and many more displaced, as was reported by Frontline. Bodo non-Bodo clashes. Bodos are one of the largest tribes living in the plains of Assam. They dominate the Kokrajhar and Bongaigaon districts. The Bodos are demanding a state for themselves, which will be carved out of Assam. The All Bodo Student Union, that is ABSW, and later the National Democratic Front of Bodoland led the agitation. The agitation for Bodoland was started in 1987 and became increasingly virulent in 1988 and 1989. An accord known as the Bodo Accord was signed in February 1993, and the Bodo Volunteer Force, BVF, the armed wing of the ABSU, laid down arms, paving the way for the establishment of the Bodoland Autonomous Council, which is known as BAC. However, one section of the BVF rejected accord and formed the Bodo Liberation Tiger Force, that is BLTF, which is now known as Bodo Liberation Tigers, that is BLT, in the year 1996. This organization remained active in the districts of Kokrajhar, Bongaigaon, Nalbari, Barpeta, Golpara, Kamrup, Darang and Dhemaji until its ceasefire agreement with the Indian government on March 29, 2000. But even the accord could not be implemented. The territory under the BAC could not be demarcated and its powers clearly defined. Now let us discuss Tripura Bengali clashes and Assami Bengali clashes. Migration from North India and Bengal was constantly taking place. But after the creation of Bangladesh, the problem became very acute. Bangladesh has been facing numerous cases after it became a separate nation. Economic problems, frequent disasters, and ethnic conflicts have made life difficult for the people. There are large-scale migrations from the border areas of Bangladesh to the northeast, especially Assam and Tripura. In Tripura, the tribal population dropped from 64% in 1874 to 29% in 1971. The Bengali population became 68% of the population. Large tracts of land were transferred from tribal hands to the migrants. Relations between the communities deteriorated and a violent clash occurred in Mandya, leading to loss of lives and property. Now, let us sum up. Till now, we have discussed different aspects of ethnicity, we've discussed tribal conflicts, the reasons for tribal conflicts. So, let us come to the end of the video and we will just try to sum it up. So, tribal issues and tribal conflicts are issues that are related to a wide variety of social, political, and cultural issues. Looking at these issues from a narrow perspective as a purely administrative problem or a law and order issue is likely to confuse rather than clarify the dynamics of the problem. The problem is related to the issues of Indian nationhood and distributive justice. Modern India is rightly proud of the economic and technology progress it has made after independence, and especially in the last 2 decades. However, the conditions of tribes is a blot on the record of India. Seeing the problem of tribes as being purely an economic or administrative one is missing the point, and solutions from this point of view are not likely to succeed. The problem has cultural and social dimensions, and this cannot be ignored. The Government of India has acknowledged the problem and is working out different ways to address the issues. With this, we come to the end of the session. Kindly watch the video again to have a better understanding, and you can watch the 2 videos on this unit, tribal ethnicity, to understand the concept and also to understand the reasons for tribal conflicts in different parts of lands inhabited by tribal. Thank you.